You ever stop and think about what really holds our world together? I mean, probably not, but a reader named Andrew posed a version of that question that is truly mind-bending. What if the Earth just stopped spinning? Well, the answer is way more catastrophic and honestly a lot weirder than you could ever imagine. So let's dive into this wild thought experiment. So there it is. That's the setup. Just picture it. The ground you're standing on slams to a dead stop. But the air, the entire atmosphere, it keeps on going at its original incredible speed. What happens next is straight out of a disaster movie, but on a scale that's hard to even comprehend.
The answer starts with a simple, brutal law of physics: inertia. Your body, the oceans, the buildings, the atmosphere, everything on the surface is moving at hundreds of miles per hour right along with the planet. So when the planet slams on the brakes, everything else just keeps on going. The result? Well, it's a catastrophe on an absolutely unimaginable scale.
But believe it or not, after that initial, total annihilation, that's when things would get really weird. The planet itself would begin to transform in ways you just can't fathom. Okay, so first up, let's talk about the Great Wind. And I'm not talking about a breezy day. The ground may have stopped, but our entire atmosphere hasn't. It's still moving. And we're not just talking about a storm. We're talking about the air itself becoming a weapon of mass destruction. Think about it. At the equator, where the Earth is spinning its fastest, the surface is zipping along at over 1,000 miles per hour. So if the planet just stops, that air doesn't. You've just instantly created a global 1,000-mile-per-hour wind scouring the entire face of the planet. And just to put that into perspective for you, 470 meters per second, that's not just fast, that is supersonic. We're talking faster than the speed of sound. This isn't just wind anymore, it's a constant planet-wide sonic boom, and it would just rip everything apart. And here's the really terrifying part. This isn't some far-off equatorial problem. This supersonic blast zone would stretch from 42 degrees north to 42 degrees south, a band around the planet that, by the way, contains 85% of every single person on Earth. The comedian Ron White has this great line about hurricanes. It's not that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing. And that has never been more horrifyingly true than in this scenario. The wind is devastating, sure, but the real killer is all the debris it's carrying. So yeah, pretty much nothing we've ever built would stand a chance. Thinking about hiding in a reinforced bunker? Well, that bunker would have to survive your neighbor's bunker hitting it at supersonic speeds. And even cities way up north, like Boston, would get blasted by winds twice as strong as the most powerful tornadoes ever recorded. Everything would just be shredded to rubble in minutes. It seems pretty hopeless, right? But is it possible that anyone could make it through this initial apocalypse? The question is, who and how? All right, so who makes it? Well, maybe some people super deep underground, but on the surface, your only hope is to be standing at the literal poles. See, if you're at the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station, you're on the Earth's axis of rotation. The speed there is basically zero. So for those scientists, the wind wouldn't blow. The world would just stop moving. But that crazy wind doesn't just care about land. When a 1,000-mile-per-hour force slams into the world's oceans, you unleash a whole new level of chaos. I mean, this supersonic wind wouldn't just create big waves, it would literally peel the surface layer off the oceans, atomizing it into a thick, dense mist. For a while, the very boundary between the sea and the sky will just blur into one chaotic mess. And that kicks off this insane chain reaction. First, the friction from the wind heats up all that airborne sea spray. This hot, wet air shoots up into the atmosphere, which then pulls colder water up from the deep to replace it, and then that gets heated and shoots up too. This violent churning would create the most intense, globe-spanning thunderstorms imaginable. And that's not all. The sheer momentum from the wind would also create this colossal storm surge. We're talking about a turbulent wall of water, part tsunami, part wind-driven wave, that would just race across the planet, wiping out coastlines for miles and miles inland. So let's say somehow you survived all of that. The winds finally die down, the storms recede. What's left? Well, for any survivors, the world would be fundamentally, unrecognizably different, starting with the very concept of a day. With the Earth's rotation stopped, our 24-hour day-night cycle is gone. A new day is now tied to our orbit around the sun. It would take an entire year for the sun to rise and set just one time. Just try to picture that. For 6 months straight, the sun never sets. The part of the Earth facing it would just bake under relentless, scorching heat. Temperatures would soar, and any water would boil away. It would be a desolate, burning wasteland. And on the other side, 6 months of absolute, total darkness. Temperatures would plummet to unimaginable lows, creating a frozen, lifeless landscape. The Earth would basically become a planet of two extremes, one side on fire, one side in a deep freeze. But believe it or not, the story doesn't quite end there. There's one more cosmic player that has a final say in our planet's fate, our faithful moon. Yeah, I know. After all this planetary chaos, it's our closest celestial neighbor that actually offers a little glimmer of hope for the very, very distant future. Okay, so here's the really cool part. The moon's gravity, the same force that causes tides and has been gently slowing our rotation for billions of years, well, now it would do the exact opposite. It would start to gently tug on the now stationary Earth and very, very slowly start pulling it back into a spin. It's like the whole cosmic dance between the Earth and moon would be put in reverse. For eons, the moon has acted as a brake on us. But on a stopped Earth, its gravity would become an engine, gently and gradually trying to give us a push start. It would take eons, an unimaginable amount of time, but our faithful moon would eventually get the Earth spinning again, a slow-motion, gravitational restart. This whole wild scenario born from a simple question is a powerful reminder. We live on a spinning rock, held in a delicate cosmic balance. The forces that make our world habitable are immense, they're constant, and maybe we can appreciate them a little bit more. So, thank you, Moon.